Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 135 of the NOCLIP podcast. Can we do a Gregorian chant? Do you think it's possible to do a Gregorian chant first time, all of us, without us deciding what the range or pitch was immediately? On three. Let's all go. Let's all do. I wonder if we'll all go for the same thing. 1, 2, 3.
Podcast.
That's good. That was good. We were talking about Pentiment before we went live, but I went for the Halo 3. I went straight for the Halo 3 Gregorian chant. Frank Howley, who's your favorite Gregorian chorus member?
I was doing the Koyaanisqatsi dudes.
Who are they?
There's this like documentary series in the 80s and 90s called Koyaanisqatsi and Baraka, 7 hours of just hyper.
Oh, sorry,
time-lapse.
yeah. Absolutely, sorry, yeah. I hear that word said out loud so infrequently that I couldn't remember. They're basically B-roll the movie.
Yeah.
I've how do you say it? Koyaanisqatsi?
Koyaanisqatsi. I think it was Philip Glass to the soundtrack.
You what? Yeah.
Yeah. And Ron Frick was the cinematographer for that, built his own custom rigs for stuff. So there's these very long exposures of like stars in the desert, and he built these time-lapse rigs that hold big cinema cameras but move at like very fixed rates so you can program them.
Amazing.
So he's like an engineer as well as a cinematographer.
Outstanding. What was the other one called again?
Baraka.
And then what was the one that came out afterwards? There was one that came out like
Samsara.
Yes, Samsara, which is terrific.
That one's great.
Yeah. If you buy a 4K television, Samsara is, I'm not sure if it is 4K, but it's fucking good looking.
That's like when people used to put Crysis on their PC to see if it could run games. Ron Frick's movies are the Crysis of 4K television.
They are, yes. Maximum game, maximum movie, maximum B-roll. Jeremy Jane, what is if you bought a 4K television tomorrow and you wanted to put something beautiful on it, what would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'd probably put like something anamorphic as fuck. Like I'd probably put something from the 50s, like I don't know, Lawrence of Arabia, or maybe like honestly, probably some Kubrick, something like Paths of Glory, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Can't go wrong. Are you excited for Christopher Nolan's new movie? As a known Christopher Nolan fan, Jeremy Jane, are you excited?
I'll probably see it someday on an airplane. I don't know.
The way it was meant to be seen. Love to see it.
On the big screen.
Exactly. Names on our big screen are all our incredible Battle Pass holders. Arno, Richard Matherson, James Brown, Jason Drury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, Sven Huster, Carson. Welcome. Might be Carson Daly. They don't have a surname there. They're probably pissed. They probably hate when people say that as well. So I've probably immediately pissed them off, and they're going to retract their patronage. I'm sorry, Carson. You're the best. Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Lett, Alex Sharp, Alex Goucher, George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, and the one and only Tohir Tiliev. We had Cameron Ladd in the production meeting on Mondays. We have production meetings if you're on the production teams here every Monday, and we got some bonus Cameron Lads thrown out there because he was asking a lot of questions, and the rest of the chat really appreciated it. Thank you so much to all of the folks who became patrons over the past week. We talked about it a bit last week as well, about the tapes. A bunch of tapes have hit the tape channel. If you want to go check out some videotapes of old video game stuff, you guys haven't seen what went up today, did you? Can I tell you?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Okay, 4 videos that went up. We have a Ready to Rumble 2 boxing TV spot featuring Michael Buffer himself doing the Let's Get Ready to Rumble. I also found a video that apparently Midway.com put out, which was Bill and Hillary Clinton beating each other up in Ready to Rumble 2 Round 2. Sorry, Ready to Rumble Round 2, which was the second game. They are voiced as well. So if you want to check out Mr. President versus the First Lady, you can do that. I also put up a 13-minute montage of PlayStation 1 trailers that was like done by, I think it was Fatbox, their video production company for Sony. So it just cycles through a bunch of trailers like Spyro, Silent Hill, Medieval, Tomb Raider. It's pretty funny. And then lastly, a TV spot for The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. These Radio Zelda. They did a lot of these very strange commercials for Majora's Mask. And I have like a TV spot, like a reel, a VHS that had like 5 versions of this TV spot on it. But I've seen other weird ones as well for that. So Lots of weirdness. We also put up the Nintendo of America's employee-only museum tour, which is filmed in the most 2004 ass way possible. Lots of Dutch angles and zooming. And then if you're a Neverwinter Nights fan, we put up the never-before-seen press previews for Neverwinter Nights, both at E3 2000 and E3 2001. Those are about 30 minutes a pop each. So if you're into Neverwinter Nights, that is some good stuff. Jeremy Jane.
Yes.
I might be into Neverwinter Nights because I'm a Renaissance man. And I need you to be my spirit guide because what's happening to my body right now, I'm not quite comfortable with. You're really committing to the cactar earring, by the way.
I forgot about it. I'm going to wear it until, I have some serious stuff to talk about later, so I'm going to take it off.
Okay, you take it off.
Yeah.
That's good. You framed the seriousness.
Yeah.
Because now I know you're more serious.
The gloves are off.
Exactly. Well, seriously, I need to talk to you about something that's happening to me, which is I think I might be a CRPG fan.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this is a genre that I have actively avoided for most of my life because they had weird names like Planescape Torment and Baldur's Gate and Path of Exile. These are all CRPGs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Disco Elysium?
Yeah, sure.
Right? Kind of.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, totally.
So Disco is definitely the gateway drug for me because I completed it over the weekend. I absolutely loved it. And I was immediately thinking, oh, I should jump right back in. There's a bunch. I want to do it a different way. I don't want to spoil any of Disco Elysium, but there was one side quest which I followed to the absolute end, which in my head was the most frivolous and stupid side quest of the entire game. And then right at the end was the most important side quest in my personal enjoyment of that game. It involved like I guess biological scientists. Is that a good way to put it?
Sure, yeah.
And they're sort of in-game Sasquatch, as it were, the way in which the beings that may or may not be there or whatever. I found that couple and their. Do you remember doing that? Did you complete that side quest?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of the game, yeah.
Yeah, and I was so happy at the end that I had because it ended up being so clutch. like this one role I needed to do to help Kim was absolutely amazing. I adored it. It took me way too long to get around to it. The reason why it did, I think, and the reason why I never played these games is I'm very, 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 very bad at reading. I always have been. I like audiobooks. I'm not very good at reading. I have my attention span I find it really hard. I have to read sentences multiple times before they stick. And I think the advent of voice acting in this genre has opened the door for me. Because Disco was great, and then I completed Disco, and I was like, I should play Disco again. I was like, maybe I'll what else is out there? If I type in CRPGs into Google, what pops up? And first of all, Planescape Torment came up, which is sort of a joke game to me because it has the most. I don't have any association with the name at all. It just makes no sense. There are two words that just make no sense to me and put together make even less sense. And my eyes have glazed over every time I've seen them. And then I went on Steam and it was $5 because the summer sale is on. 20 down to 5, and I was for the enhanced edition, right, which has some voice acting and other stuff. And I was like, all right, put that in the cart and let's see what happens next. And then I was like, oh, Path of Exile. I think Obsidian, and we've talked about Josh Sawyer last week and Obsidian Games last.
Wait, do you mean Pillars of Eternity or Path of Exile?
Oh, sorry, I mean Pillars of Eternity.
Okay,
sorry, not Path of Exile.
It is very confusing that they have the same acronym and people get them confused all the time.
Which one's Path of Exile again?
That's the one that's Diablo with seasons.
Oh, yes, okay. Yes, Grinding Gear Games. Yeah. Sorry, Pillars of Eternity. Yes, PoE 2. And we went looking for that, and that was down to $10 from $50 or something. It was that was super cheap on the Steam summer sale, something like that. And I put them both in, and I was in the thing, and I was like, oh, that might be good. I was Googled Path of Exile 1. Sorry, Pillars of Eternity 1 and Pillars of Eternity 2. I'm doing it again. Yeah, it's down from $40 to $10 at the moment, 75% off. And they said it was maybe the better one to do. And I played the first opening, 2 hours, maybe a bit more on PoE. And these games fucking rock, Jeremy. This shit is great.
I'm so glad to hear. I've never played Pillars of Eternity for no reason in particular. I'm literally going to buy them as soon as we hang up this call. I didn't know they were so cheap. I feel like that the fact that Pillars of Eternity hasn't blown up, just from what I've heard of people who have played them and love them, the fact that they haven't blown up and that I haven't played them even though I love the genre is like, I feel like that's like a crime. I feel like I should be tried in The Hague for not playing that game even though I like CRPGs. Tell me about it.
What are the ones that you've played? Because I know you've played a lot of, you've talked about Divinity.
Yeah, the Divinity 1 and 2, or Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, not Divinity, which is a different genre kind of. It's like Might and Magic. But I don't know. I've played a little bit of Planescape Torment. I've played maybe the first 4 hours of it with Mort, the horny skeleton who's just a head.
That was weird. He didn't want me to kill any of the ladies.
Yeah.
And he was like, because you know why. And I'm like, Jesus, okay.
Yeah, it's very weird. He wants to solicit the services of a brothel, but he doesn't have a body. I don't really know what his deal is. I don't know. It's been a while since I've played any CRPGs.
That's a scorn ass video game.
Yeah.
As well.
Oh like totally. It's meaty.
It's so grungy and meaty and like and like Hellraiser-esque and like grim and I just I think the enhanced edition, I mean the graphics in these games, we played, there's like probably a couple of other environmental things that have happened here. We played Heroes of Might and Magic 3 for a video that's going to be on Netflix on NoClip.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, on NoClip Crew, probably by the time this podcast goes up. It should be. And then I also watched that Dungeons and Dragons movie with like Chris Pine and all that. And that is a fucking fun movie. Like that's like, it's a good movie. I have no care or love for Dungeons and Dragons. I nothing it. To me, it's like a whole world that I'm just not in and I don't get it. And I've played some tabletop, role playing over the years, and I did a bit of D&D, I think, but like not lots, but like I don't. And I was watching that movie and he kept saying shit like he referred to Baldur's Gate. And I was like, wait, that's a fucking place in Dungeons and Dragons? I had no idea. And then he referred to, I think Neverwinter came up and some other, and I was like, this is how stupid I am. I was like, wait, all these games are just like D&D games. They all take place in that same world. I had no fucking idea. And then Planescape is also part of that. Like the Dungeons and Dragons logo comes up at the top. Yeah, it's like a fucking outworld basically, as well. And I'm like, oh, this is like a whole world that I've not. And there are people listening to this podcast who are like, I might as well be explaining what fucking pasta is. Like, it's like, yeah, you fucking idiot. Did you not know this? And in Pillars of Eternity is, to my mind, it's just they have made up their own D&D world. They have made up their on rules, like Azeroth or whatever, right? Like, they have made up their own universe and they are doing D&D style shit, but it's in this other place. And I don't know what it is about. I think as Disco Elysium, the other thing is that Disco it's all talking, which is great, but that reads into my issue, my problem being that I am, the talking is the problem for me. Yeah. Like even with voice acting, if there's a lot of it, I also start to get a little bit, and I start clicking through and not listening, and I should be, and all that sort of stuff. Whereas with a little bit of combat now, we're playing Pillars of Eternity, a little bit of combat, and from what I've learned, the sort of vibe of the game is kind of piratey, which I'm a bit, as a Monkey Island poster behind me, I'm a lover of piracy. It just fucking feels good. It looks great. The voice acting's great. You can tell that this has been like play tested to death, that they made a game before this and that they have figured out a bunch of the issues with communicating the complex things about this game. These games also embrace save scumming in a way that I really love. Like, I think that's what's fun about them, is that you just have the freedom to sort of fuck around and find out. So yeah, I'm just like, I'm chewing them up, man. I'm like way into them. And there's something about this perspective or art style, because obviously Disco looks incredible. Disco Elysium just looks beautiful. But Planescape Torment looks fucking great. Like, it's just so weird.
It has such a style to it. It's very like, I don't know. I was replaying Diablo 2, not the remake, but the original Diablo 2 recently, just showing it to someone for their first time who'd never played it. And the cutscenes in that game, like when you beat Act 1, the cutscene of Diablo in his like human form with that little like kind of wormy guy he's dragging through the desert, unbelievable. Like, to this day, looks so good to me. And it's not that it looks photorealistic. It's that it's like, it's committed to this idea of photorealism that's stuck in the year 2000. But it looks just like, I don't know, it's more effective to, like, when I look at Final Fantasy 16, I'm like, wow, they did it. The whole game looks like a cutscene now.
Right.
But when I look at the cutscenes in Diablo 2, it just, like, moves something in me that feels like, it's not the uncanny valley, but it just, like, it touches me in a way that I'm having, like, a hallucinatory vision. It makes me viscerally uncomfortable in a way that's so effective. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about that era that just, like, really, really gets to me and gets under my skin in a good way.
See, that's the thing. Diablo is another one that is like very that I just like I'm totally have no experience. Like very
you've
little
never played
experience
Diablo 2?
games. No, like
wow.
Like StarCraft I played, Warcraft I played, World of Warcraft I played.
Yeah.
But Diablo games, for whatever, it's the same reason. There was something in my head that was just like, that game involves reading. When you read bad, you feel like a dum-dum. Don't play the game, make feel bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Diablo 2 is fully voice acted, and
Right.
it does not have that much text, I will tell you. It is like, I would say you get like a paragraph per quest at most.
Do you remember we talked a couple of weeks ago about how like Oblivion was the sort of cork in the bottle, or like the thing that got a lot of people, like that in Lord of the Rings was sort of like opened the door for me, and I feel like a lot of people of my ilk into the fantasy world. You know what I mean? Like playing those games.
Yeah.
I wonder if a lot of this stuff was just before then, and I never fucked with it. Because like, what I think Disco Elysium was definitely like, made me feel like, oh, these types of games can be for, you know, because I'm more that way. You know what I mean? Like I'm a mental health mess, and I have therapy, and I'm married to a therapist, and we talk about that stuff a lot. And I felt like Disco Elysium to me didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like, oh yeah, I totally, everyone probably can, like in a certain way, sort of connect with that shit. And there's something about the D&D movie, that and Disco, that like D&D movie was so unassuming about, like, it was like, you don't have to know any of this shit. Don't worry about it. We got you. You know what I mean? We got you. And that's what I felt with Pillars as well, where they're like, there's a decent amount of like, oh, I got to read about why is this little fucking cat person here? What the fuck? What's your fucking deal? I'm not being racist, but I don't know what's going on with you. But it's not like making me feel bad for not knowing what a fucking, Blanclar is.
I feel like that's part of the joy for me of RPGs is because I feel you. I think there's an approach in which you're like, oh well, I don't know what any of this is, and I don't have the context, and like I don't want to go up to a Khajiit and he's offered me skooma. Like there's all these like, it's the bling blongs have like glimgloms for you, and it just feels, and your eyes glaze over. But I feel like part of the joy of those games is just like throwing yourself into the bathtub and like just soaking in the world and just kind of like feel like you are the stranger in the world. When you get off the boat in Morrowind, you're like, you are a stranger in that world because you as the player are unfamiliar with the way that place is.
Is that just the thing? By the way, CRPGs,
Boats?
Planescape Torment, Disco Elysium, and Pillars of Eternity all have you not knowing who you are.
Yeah, amnesia starts. I don't know. I wonder. I mean, it's a very effective.
Reasons.
Yeah, it's a very effective storytelling tool because it allows you to project yourself onto. I mean, in a sense, it's kind of a different flavor of the Gordon Freeman doesn't talk, right? Like it allows you to project more of yourself into the character.
Yeah, that's fair. It is funny how they're all for different reasons too.
Yeah.
One of them is like in Pillars, you die and get reincarnated in that world. That's what the Pillars of Eternity are. In Disco, it's because you just got shit drunk, I guess. Although that's open for argument, I guess. And then in what was the other one? Planescape. You're an immortal who lost their mind. They died, I guess, and then rewoke, and you're the nameless one.
Yeah.
So, oh my god, that game has got such a vibe to it.
I really like that storytelling trope though, because I always like in games when someone is like, oh man, the Skeleton King is like, he's a real badass, and everyone keeps mentioning the Skeleton King, and then eventually you get to a place and they're like, the Skeleton King is in that building, and you're like, holy shit, I get to meet the guy that everyone is talking about. And in Planescape Torment, it's kind of like you're the guy that like a bunch of people recognize you, and you kind of have to suss suss out what your relationship is to them. And it's like
Right, yeah.
you're like a social detective. And Planescape Torment, obviously a huge influence on Disco Elysium, and it has a similar kind of flavor of someone's like, oh, you're the guy that, like drove his car into the lake last night. And you're like, oh shit, am I? All right. And it leaves it up to you to kind of like either be that person or try to be better than that person. It's a nice blend of authored character, because I do like playing a character where you're like, you're the prince, and then I get to be the prince, but I also like being able to imprint myself. So I feel like that's kind of a nice blend, is you're like, you have backstory, but because you're an amnesiac, you're essentially you as the player inheriting that role.
Yeah, you've gone through like a moment. You've pierced the veil, and you've gone through something that makes it so you are someone else than you used to be, and you get to pick who that other person is.
Yeah.
I think that's what. Yeah, I forget. I think that's the other reason why Planescape was the one I played, was because Disco Elysium. When I was reading about it, I was reading I got the like art book, this developer book. It's fascinating, and they talk about it in there as well. And I was like, oh, I've never played it. And I guess Planescape doesn't have that much combat in it. There's a bit, but it's not like Divinity or like Pillars of Eternity. It's funny because there is like a subgenre in my head. There is a version of these games that I have played growing up, which is isometric, not isometric, whatever this is called. It's just like third fucking camera looking down, free cam almost, but like action games, but like real time. Because like obviously the way a lot of these games work is that when you're in combat, you can hit pause, so it's not necessarily turn based. Although you can play Pillars of Eternity turn based if you want, or you can just do the hit pause to set your shit up and then unpause and then let it do its thing. Which is, I played a lot of the Commandos games growing up.
Yes,
do you remember those?
I love those games.
Those games. I was about to say, why does nobody play those games? The Desperados games.
Oh yeah.
Is basically that. They're like very cool, tactical. And I think I played Desperados after I played Weird West, because Weird West was like real time, but probably, I wanted to try something that was a bit more turn-based. Have you played any of those games, the Desperados or the old Commandos games?
I've played the old Commandos games. Frank, have you played Desperados at all?
No, but I played Commandos when I was like 8 years old, so I probably did not understand it, but it was very cool.
Same. I had a demo disc from Eidos that had like Tomb Raider and Commandos. I think it had Legacy of Kain, maybe, like a bunch of just weird games.
Oh, nice.
And I think it had 2 levels of Commandos. And me and my brother, I don't even remember if I owned Commandos. I think me and my brother just played the 2 levels on this demo disc like 1,000 times. Because it's so sandboxy and it's so save scum dependent. Like you can every single step of the way you can be like, all right, I'm gonna stab this Nazi and then run back, and then if you fail that, you just keep looping and trying it. And those games are very unforgiving, so as a child they're extra hard, but I love those games.
Oh man, I'm looking up Commandos 2. There's a remaster on Steam, and let's see if we can figure out why it's got mixed reviews. This is a tough one because some people are saying it's not a great remaster, and then some people are saying that it's been censored because there's no swastikas.
Oh,
no Hitler in the FFE intro.
We got woke Nazis now.
Which I'll be honest, I'm not a huge. I'm okay with like not having swastikas in things. But honestly, it's kind of stupid maybe to have a Commandos game and then have the Nazis. It's the whole point. It's like, it's kind of like getting the Nazis out of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, they're bad people. Like, it's not like they're the protagonists, Right. Like, you're killing them the entire game.
You are. No Raising Sun or Japanese airplanes. They took out co-op, it seems, as well. And it just doesn't play right, I think, is the biggest issue people are saying. Mixed reviews. That's a pain in the ass. I'd go back and play those. But the Desperados games, which is the new one? Is it 2 Desperados or 3, isn't it?
I think it's 3.
Desperados 3 came out in 2020. It's currently, the Steam Summer Sale is intense. It's $20 at the moment. It's 50% off. I had a lot of fun playing Desperados 3. I never completed it. Overwhelmingly positive on all reviews, 8,000 reviews.
This game is beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Oh my god.
Yes. Because so was Commandos. Do you remember how good Commandos looked? Do you remember it had like dynamic light?
Yeah.
Like Commandos would have nighttime levels and they'd have flashlights and shit. And it was all pixel art, but the pixel art would like glow, like the light would, oh god, it looks so good. And Desperados is definitely that. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have some nice fucking sunsets happening on the ground here and stuff. So here's the thing. CRPG. I feel like I am reborn. I'm like an old lady YouTuber who's just learned about video games, and I'm asking my chat what I should play next. I'm like Manon Gage, who has learned about the wonder of Twitch and is now asking her chat what to play. She's playing through Disco Elysium at the moment, actually, which is pretty cool. Let's go through a list of popular CRPGs, and we can talk about... Frank, have you played any of these fucking games? Are you like me? Just like a little virgin, untouched boy?
I think CRPGs... I think CRPGs are... a game series, a genre of that. As I felt I was too dumb to play them.
Right.
Even Disco Elysium, when I first tried playing it like 2 years ago, it gave me like a panic attack. It was like so existential. I was like, oh, this is making me uncomfortable. Why are you? This is like, oh god. Now with Disco Elysium and Fallout New Vegas, I'm like, I adore skill checks. For whatever reason now, it's like, ooh, it's so satisfying. Or the feeling. What I do in both games is I'll hold on to like my level up skills until like, ooh, I'll level up now. So now I'm into, like, I think even Hold this year has been me trying to like think again and like go back to games I completely dismissed before. So I'm very open to playing anything now.
Okay. So here we are. We're good. We're Renaissance men, and we're entering this world. And let's go through some of these, and leave in the comments on YouTube or hit us up podcast at NOCLIP.video if you have any feelings on any of these. So Pillars of Eternity, I've already dabbled in that. I'm really enjoying 2. I will come back. I haven't played enough to talk about the game proper yet, so we'll talk about that in next week's podcast. Planescape Torment, another one that we've both played. Weird, right, Jeremy?
Very
Scorny.
strange. Yeah, very scorny. I probably will go back and play it. I wasn't in the right mood for it just because, you got to be in kind of a certain bookish mood to play a game with that much text, but I absolutely loved the first 3-4 hours of it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's what I'll end up doing as well, is that I might not stick it all out. It's also like a weird, like, I don't know how you spend your whole time in that weird world, because that's pretty intense. You know what it reminded me of, weirdly, is there's like a whole genre of game, like, weirdly, these are all French now that I think about it. Outcast, not the band, Outcast. It was like a PC third-person game set in a really weird alien world.
Oh.
That, Omicron the Nomad Soul, where I'm like, oh, these are games where you're just a guy, like, exploring a weird world. And Outcast is a bit more action orientated, but definitely Omicron. Omicron to me feels like a third person, like Planescape Torment. That's what I'm. Also, I called it Planescape Tournament until maybe last year.
That's the BR version that they're going to release of it.
That's the 32. That's the capture the flag mode that they're going to put in. So the big one that's looming large over all this is that we are about to experience Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
It is coming. I didn't give a shit about this until about maybe 48 hours ago. So now I'm like super jazzed. We've talked about Baldur's Gate before. None of us have played Baldur's Gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, so now I'm like, all right, Baldur's Gate 2. Maybe that's one to go back. Fallout 1 and 2. I have not played enough of these games. Like, I played them a bit, but not that much. And now I'm like, oh, shit.
They're so good. They're unbelievably good. I've played all of Fallout 1. I have played some of Fallout 2. And I played a little bit of Fallout Tactics, but they're really, really strange and good. They also do have that very kind of like late 90s, early 2000s CG thing going on, so everyone's kind of like standing like this, and like, I don't know. They're so weird and good. You should definitely play them. They also have this very kind of sardonic tone to them that's of the era. I mean, this was an era where Bomberman wasn't edgy enough, so they made like Atomic Bomberman, and he was like fucking cool. So yeah, I don't know. They have like, they're very of that era in such a good way.
While we're talking about Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky of Fallout fame, Troika. So Troika Games made 3 games. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which I do remember playing, a game that tragically was a first-person game launched on the same day as Half-Life 2, which is a real fucking whiff by the marketing team. Prior to that, they had 2 games, the Temple of Elemental Evil, which I believe is a Dungeons & Dragons game. Yes, it's on the box. And the other one was Arcanum, which I've heard a lot about over the years. Arcanum, its full name was Arcanum: of Steamworks and Magic Obscura, which is quite a mouthful. And the reason I'm bringing these up is that what is the new to me, I think this is sort of like a Neverwinter prequel kind of thing. There's another game that's been released. What was the game that really looked like BioShock Infinite?
Oh.
That we were giving out about, looking too much like BioShock
Oh yeah.
Infinite.
God, I can't even remember the name now. It just went through my mind like a sieve.
Right, that's the problem. That was released. It was at Summer Games Fest, right?
BioShock Infinite.
Yeah,
Clockwork Revolution?
That's it. Is that it?
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
That does sound right.
I've heard from people that because some of the brain trust from Troika and one of the guys who worked on Arcanum, I'm not sure who it is. Maybe it's Jason D. Anderson. I don't know. Because it's one of them, that's actually what it's going to be like. So maybe more like Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines, where it's a first-person CRPG type thing. So yeah, we're really popping the cork on this. Couple more of these. The Divinity series. I've never played Divinity. Jeremy, you love them, right?
Unbelievable. I played Divinity Original Sin 2. Before I had my NoClip work PC, all I had was a shitty MacBook. And I was invited to the beta for the GeForce Now streaming game service. And I played 120 hours, an entire playthrough of Divinity Original Sin, streaming the game from a computer in a server farm in Las Vegas. That is how much I liked this game. It ran like shit, and it would compress an artifact the video, and I did not care because I love this game so much. I have since replayed it on a computer that was in my home, but it is unbelievable. Divinity Original Sin, I mean, that's why I'm so excited for Baldur's Gate 2, or Baldur's Gate 3 rather, is because Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of, it is, I mean, they're saying with Baldur's Gate 3 that it's the most D&D a video game has ever been, just in terms of the raw multitude of expression that you can do in this world. But Divinity Original Sin 2 is just one of those games where everywhere you go, it's not, the world feels huge, even though the map isn't that big, because every single crumb of the world is infused with meaning. If you find a house, if you find a house and there's a dead guy inside, it's like it's somebody's dad, and you're gonna meet the son, and he's gonna be like, that was my dad, and his favorite teacup is in there, and there's you have to get it, and the teacup is cursed, and then the curse will transport you to an underground cave, but the underground cave is where my grandfather died. It's just unbelievable how interlinked this world is. It's so good, man.
That's bizarre. I love it. Okay, that's pretty dope. How about I think that's next on my I gotta play these fucking games. But I will say the other one that's coming up is none of the In Exile plus stuff I think I played Wasteland 3 at one stage, but not much. I don't think I played past the opening level or maybe 2 levels, and that was clearly very tutorializing. But another game that I feel like is maybe I guess that's not really in. I don't know why I grouped these together. Have you ever played Shadowrun? Shadowrun Returns? Because that's a tactical role-playing. I think it's kind of similar to these two. I think it maybe exists a bit between the Desperados in these games. I don't know. Let us know. Put it in the comments, please. I'm an absolute noob. Any more of these? Looking down through this list.
While you're looking, I was looking at old PC Gamer magazines recently from the late 90s, early 2000s, and I actually saw an advertisement for Arcanum that I thought was so cool that I saved it. So let me send it to you guys. This is a weird thing to say, but some of the games that were advertised in this magazine were not games that I have heard of, or if I heard of them, their names were I think I've heard of, Anachronox. That sounds vaguely familiar.
That is 100% in the Planescape Torment part of my brain.
Yeah, totally. So, as I was reading these through, it occurred to me that maybe these aren't games that people recommend to me, because now, as a person in 2023 who is very into video games, I feel like I often play games that not a lot of people are talking about, but that are incredibly important to me. This is foreshadowing for later in this podcast episode. And I wonder if I'm sure there was someone who played Anachronox in 2003, and they're like, why isn't everyone talking about this? So I have started flipping through old PC Gamer magazines and just going on vibe-based game picks, and I'm just gonna try out a bunch of these old games based on advertisements. So I'll send you guys the ad for Arcanum in the group chat.
Yeah, Anachronox looks like a bad Deus Ex, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
It's apparently a proto Mass Effect, is how people describe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look, it looks like you got a little squad going here too. Just the graphics look real good, crunchy, nice, a lot of fucking nice angles.
Yeah.
Here, not a lot of ambient occlusion going on. Fuck, I feel like I'm I feel like I'm like reborn, a new man, so to speak, with these games. Further research required. That's what I feel like with these. So thank you, by the way, to all the people over the years who have said you should do something. And also, like, in a way, this like makes me feel excited about, like, hey man, if I get into these games, we might have a lot of documentaries. Might be a lot of fertile ground here for what's Tim Kane's doing his old YouTube channel. He could probably come talk to us again about some Fallout 1 and 2 shit. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. Isn't it? It's really embarrassing that I'm like, I do this for a living and I've never really played Diablo 2.
Dude, I went to film school and I've seen one Yasuhiro Ozu movie. It's all good. Everyone has their blind spots.
Oh yeah, I've seen all of his episodes.
I know you're a big Late Spring fan.
Yeah, I think he directed a couple of episodes of Ninja Turtles. I'm gonna see.
Yeah, he did. He did. He invented Master Splinter.
That's enough for me and my wonderful journey into the world of computer role-playing games. Jeremy Jane, this is a game that I feel like I should have heard about.
Yes.
But I haven't. And also it seems to have not many reviews, but lots of positive reviews. What is Homebody, and is it any good?
Okay. I'm going to really focus my energies here because occasionally you come across a game that has like 100 Steam reviews and you play it and you're like, holy shit, this is one of the greatest games I've played in a very long time. There was a moment, I played Homebody last night for the first time and for about 6 hours. I did not complete it, but I think I got pretty close. And there was a moment about 5 hours into the game where I was like, I think this is one of my favorite games of 2023. What other games came out this year? And I started going through the Rolodex in my head. You guys ready for Jeremy Jane's hottest take of 2023?
Okay.
I like this game way better than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Like, way better than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And it has 100 Steam reviews. This is a game made by the GameGrumps developers.
So that's the thing that's freaking me out.
Yes.
How does this game only have 120 reviews when it was made by fucking GameGrumps, which is a huge YouTube channel, who also nailed Dream Daddy?
Yeah.
Dream Daddy's great.
Dream Daddy is great. Yeah, Dream Daddy is great. Check out our documentary. I think Dream Daddy is... So Verdun Shaw, one of the leads on Dream Daddy, taught me this theory that has never left my mind since he explained it to me when we filmed the doc. And it's the idea of compressibility. I think I've talked about it maybe on this podcast, but definitely to you guys before. And the idea of compressibility of an idea is that an idea has many levels at which it can work. And so for Dream Daddy, the compressibility of the idea was that the tiny little most compressed version is, it's like a gay dad dating simulator. And that's a kind of like intriguing enough punchy little line that people are like, is it sincere? Is it ironic? Is this like, what is this? Is it funny? Is it serious? And the game itself is kind of a Trojan horse. So as the compressed idea expands, you realize that it is a very sincere, heartfelt game. It's not a like, haha, isn't it funny that all these buff dads are like having sex? And it becomes this very sincere thing. I think that Dream Daddy as a like, is it a joke, is it not a joke thing worked way better with GameGrumps' audience because they do comedy. Like they do comedy in video games. And so I think a video game that is comedy centric makes sense for them to promote. Homebody is a little more difficult because when they've promoted it, from what I gathered during their videos, they were kind of like doing a bit because that's what their audience wants, is them to do bits. But Homebody is a pretty serious game. In fact, if I can totally pull back the veil here, I have like pretty bad OCD, and this is a game about OCD in many ways. In fact, if you have OCD, this game will trigger the absolute fuck out of you.
Okay. Excited to do it.
Yeah, it is a game in many ways about anxiety, about mental health, and primarily about like OCD and like being a hypochondriac, being afraid that you left the stove on, checking things, compulsions to check things.
What is it about? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I'm going to try to talk around any spoilers because I feel like part of the intrigue of this game is how it unfolds.
Okay.
It is a survival horror game, kind of.
Single player?
It is a single player game. I would describe it as a survival horror game that is more of a puzzle box.
Okay.
People have described it as an escape room. I think that's a little reductive, to be honest, because I think this game is so much about the story, so much about the characters, and so much about what all of this is representative of. It is this David Lynch dream. And when I say David Lynch, I'm not using that as a throwaway. David Lynch would play this game and be like, this is excellent. This is a Lynchian game in every sense of the word. It's kind of like Silent Hill meets Signalis without the combat, maybe.
Okay. It's hard to define, is what I'm getting from this. Is it like locked camera? Is it third person, first person, locked camera perspectives?
Yeah, it's fixed camera like old survival horror games.
Okay.
You can toggle tank controls on and off. I think the fact that I'm having trouble explaining this game, I think, is a huge part of the reason that it only has 100 Steam reviews.
Dude, even the screenshots and videos aren't getting me any closer to like figuring out how this controls.
Yeah, I didn't know what this was until I played it. But there were so many moments last night where I was just dumbfounded, like jaw hanging open, going, "Holy shit! How is this not like an indie smash sensation?" And so I am here to evangelize Homebody. I think it is a very strong contender for the best game of 2023. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to say about it. It's also kind of like, you know what it is? It's Signalis meets Outer Wilds is maybe a better comparison.
Ooh, now you got me, baby. Yeah. The hook is in my lip.
Yeah.
And you're starting to reel it in.
Yeah, totally. It's like, but that's the problem. Is like, okay, so someone posted a quote in our Discord recently from some game design like thesis, and the quote was about how as soon as you can model a game in your mind, it kind of compresses what the game is. It loses its mystery. But as long as you're still trying to figure out what the game is, the player is engaged because they're like, oh, can I do this? Oh, is this gonna let me do this? And you're pushing it all. That's why immersive sims are so great, because you're constantly like, oh, can I become the coffee cup and roll through that tiny little slot? And then if the game lets you do that, you're like, your brain lights up because you're like, holy shit, my curiosity was rewarded.
It's why The Matrix 1 works so well, because you're constantly asking questions right up until the last second, and then it's why the sequels don't for a lot of people, because everything is established.
You're rule testing. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, you're like, can I step out over the edge and will it support me? And so this is a game that I think is not trying to be a genre piece, and I think that's why it's difficult. I can't remember. I think Sam Barlow told us this quote that an old famous director said, if you want to make a serious film with a serious message, put it in a genre movie. And I think that like this is a very serious piece of art that is also very entertaining, but did not commit itself to being just a survival horror game, just a puzzle game. And I think that's why it's been difficult to get off the ground. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was a hard game to market. I also feel like they didn't market it enough or properly. This is Jory Griffiths, I believe, is at the helm of this. A very, very nice guy who worked on Dream Daddy as well. This was kind of his love child. Yeah, do you guys have any questions about it? I'm trying to think what else to explain about it.
Well, my one question is, could we play this on NoClip Crew without, like, could we play, like, 15 minutes of it and not spoil what it was?
Okay, so I think we could. I think there is a core element of the game that is very Outer Wilds-y that I am trying to talk around.
Okay.
You can probably guess what I'm
going
saying.
to. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to go. I've already, while you were talking, I try not to do other work while we're doing the podcast, but I did buy and download it because I had Steam open on this machine. So I will play it right after this podcast.
I think we could do a NoClip Crew on it. I think we could get up until there is a turning point where the game becomes something else, and you kind of realize what's going on.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And but that happens so many times. But that keeps happening. Okay. Like the knife turns, and you're like, oh, it's like this kind of game. And then the knife turns again.
Let's not do anymore then.
But I do have to stress though, like I like this game. When Signalis came out, I felt a similar need to evangelize it. But then Signalis blew the fuck up, and a ton of people played it. And I really hope Homebody gets a similar treatment because it's so sincere, and the writing is so good, and it's so clearly like I don't know Jory personally. Obviously, I assume he wrote most of this. I wonder if he has OCD, because as a person with OCD, this is like I felt like called out in a way that was so profoundly directly affecting that like it really forced me to confront my own mental health in a way that was both challenging and very engaging. And it's rare that, you know, I mean, like when I compare it to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it's kind of unfair because Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best games ever made. It's an incredible toy. It's like a world.
I'm the Jeremy Jin on Christopher Nolan when it comes to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't played enough of it, I think, is my problem, but it has not stuck its talons in like other games have.
Well, I feel the same way. I have to respect the toy-like nature of the mechanics of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I think it is an unbelievable technical achievement and a marvel of game mechanics. However, I think that its toy-like nature is, in my mind, for my personal tastes, infinitely inferior to what Homebody is able to accomplish in a game that is incredibly short, incredibly humble. I don't know how big the development team was because I'm afraid to Google anything about Homebody and spoil it for myself. But play this game, people. It's $20 at the most, which it seemed like a lot to me when I bought it. I got it on sale for $13. I would now that I've played most of it, I would happily pay $20 for this game. It is so good.
Yeah, 30% off on that Steam sale. $13.99, down from $19.99. Frank Howley, how you doing, buddy? I'm sorry. We've been talking about weird games that you're not into. There's been no wrestling. There's been no Tony Hawk. There's been no anime. It's just been all boring dice rolls and Game Grumps. How you doing over there?
Good. I've been decluttering my house the last month, and part of it was taking care of my game collection. And basically, games I am done, beaten, have no reason to go back to. I'm putting away, putting in the bins, and putting
Hey, when you say bins, you mean not garbage bins?
No. Preserving them in plastic in bins and throwing them in the thing. But now my game collection has gone from a full bookshelf to now half a full bookshelf.
Wow.
And that's not physical, not digital stuff. But I've been basically going through. This is kind of how I landed back on Fallout New Vegas and even the Katamari games. It's I was just thinking back to I don't know, the thing that's kind of almost paralyzing with games media or being in games press is every week there's new games, and every week it's all right, on to the next game, on to the next game, on to the next game. And I feel mentally this is the first summer I'm not teaching in 10 years, since I graduated. So part of me feels I have free time, most free time I've ever had, not counting COVID. Or maybe time stopped during COVID and we're living in an alternate reality. But it's okay, so let me kind of pretend I'm on summer vacation. And so I've been going through just my backlog of games and revisiting stuff. So still playing Fallout New Vegas, and then I started playing LA Noire again because that was another game that I played for maybe a week and was this isn't Grand Theft Auto, and then I sent it back to GameFly.
I never completed it either. Yeah, I played about a week probably, and then I got halfway through and was I'm done interrogating people.
But playing Disco Elysium has unlocked it for me, being wait a minute, let me go back, because the thing that Disco Elysium taught me, and I feel we talked about this last week, is you can fail and still have fun in the game and still unlock different things. And I looked online on LA Noire, you can still succeed even if you get every single clue, interrogation. If you can be the worst cop in the world and still progress the story.
You can be so overly aggressive in that game.
Yes, you could doubt everyone. You're lying. What are you talking about, man?
It's like a little girl. You're just yelling in her face.
And so it's we were kind of talking about David Cage games last week too, and it's the same thing where it's and now I feel bad because it feels I'm shitting on the game. I'm sure you can play it authentically, but I am having so much fun playing it now. Kind of like Disco Elysium. You can be a bumbling idiot cop in Disco Elysium, and it's such a rewarding experience. And so in LA Noire, you can run over pedestrians. There's no penalty. It is just and it's kind of fun because I go up to LA a lot, and I can recognize the streets and things like that. And it's I don't know. It's been a surprising game. Everyone's wearing a fedora, which I think there were, and I think you should leave. There was the driving crooner sketch, and so I just think of that the entire time. And also with Tim Rogers' action button. That's the next giant 20-hour essay he's going to put out whenever he gets to it. So part of me is I want to play this before that giant thing drops, so I'm kind of ready for it. And so, it's just been fun. LA Noire was the same thing with Fallout New Vegas. A game I gameflied, felt too busy and sent it back. And now I'm wait a minute. And they had since remastered. It was on sale on Amazon. I got it on Xbox One for $15.
Wow.
So
Dude, now I'm thinking about LA Noire. I don't know what's happened. I don't know if it's I do think that AAA games for the most part fucking suck in comparison to when they did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We're in such a sequel-itis hellhole that and there's plenty of them I enjoy and but there's fucking so much that's not there. And the easy thing would be just to get all grumpy about it and rah, rah. But that's fine. That's for there's a whole generation of people who are enjoying those games for the first time. I'm not gonna complain to them. And then the next thing I would usually do is I'd go back and play a lot of games that I liked in the past and replay them. But what's actually interesting that's happening is like, it is in a way, like you said, you're half of a bookcase. There is all of this amazing games out there that I either didn't play because I wrote them off or because I was a different person. And Disco Elysium, for both of us, it seems like, has been this weird little fucking gateway drug into the games that aren't even like similar. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm playing Planescape Tournament and LA Noire. I don't exactly have that much. The Venn diagrams have a little bit of a rub there. But like I could fuck with LA Noire. I'd like to check that out. I like how weird those faces are.
Oh, it's so bizarre. It is so unsettling seeing the faces because the faces look incredible and everything else is like a step below. And I think video game graphics, I've always had this magical, I don't know, I almost said magical reality where it's like it's our uncanny valley where it's like it looks real, but it's so off, but it's kind of bizarre. Also, the main character is one of the guys from Mad Men. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is, but yeah, because it was a big budget game that has such a unique, goofy perspective, and I feel like the Mafia games are a little bit similar era, where it's like they're open world games, but not really, you know.
Yeah.
And so I am finding it charming. I don't know. Now I just feel like I think what it was too when I was in college, I was studying film, and it was like, well, video games aren't productive anymore. I kind of like stopped playing video games or stopped caring about video games so much. Now that I've retired from teaching film, now I'm like, oh my god, now
you got your hobby back.
Yeah, now it's like, and now I can enjoy movies without thinking about like students. I would get anxiety watching documentaries because I would have to think about helping kids edit their videos, and it would I just couldn't enjoy stuff anymore. And so now with video games, like I know the projects we're working on, but outside of that, it's like, I can play anything I want, and it's just whatever's appealing to me at the time to pick up and play. And now, generations later, and we're talking about Steam sales, all these games I dismissed before are so cheap now. And then, funny enough, even like I'll still play games on PlayStation and things like that. Like like Xbox One, that generation of games, or even just regular Xbox games, are discounted so fast because I feel like outside of Game Pass, people aren't buying Xbox games, so the prices on those plummet.
Oh, funny.
So,
Which on Xbox? Original Xbox or Xbox One?
So sorry, yeah, Xbox. Speaking of Xbox One generation, but even like 360 generation too. Like Fallout New Vegas, I got very cheap. LA Noire, I got very cheap. Katamari, I got very cheap. So I don't know. It's I feel like it's also just attacking the market because like now anything quote unquote retro, even PS2 era and below, those games are so expensive.
Yeah, it's true.
Whereas no one's really paying attention to the prices on 360 or PS3 games yet.
Frank's bookcase is going to get full again.
No,
I
went to Book Off like a few weeks ago, and I got so many random ass games. I found out there is a Lucha Libre wrestling game on Xbox 360.
What's it called?
Oh my God.
It's called Lucha Libre AAA. So because now I'm going to in GCW, this like underground hardcore wrestling promotion, they invite a lot of luchador wrestlers, and a lot of these luchadors are in this AAA luchador. Like the wrestling promotion's called AAA, not the development budget.
It has the best subtitle ever, Heroes del Ring.
Yes.
That means Heroes of a Ring.
Yes.
Did I ever tell you guys I worked on a Lucha Libre documentary?
What?
No.
Yeah. Before
God.
my first internship when I moved to San Francisco was with a documentary production company, and I was a PA on a luchador documentary, and we went to a bunch of Lucha Libre events and filmed them, and filmed with Blue Demon Jr. Blue Demon, one of the most famous luchadors in history. Blue Demon Jr. I don't think is actually related to Blue Demon. I think he was designated a successor. I don't think they have any blood relationship, but yeah, it was awesome. They were so serious. Like behind the scenes, I've always imagined people in like, you know, in like 90s WCW would go behind the scenes. If there's no cameras around, they'd be like, "Hey Terry, how you doing, man?" and like shake hands.
Exactly.
These guys were, if you were backstage, they were in character the whole time. Like they were living.
Wow.
They were so like intimidating and scary, but it was awesome.
Man.
Yeah.
Good times. No Clip Podcast. We may not cover all the best new games, but you will hear about Homebody, LA Noire, and Planescape Torment, I guess, this week. Thank you all so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you for checking out our videotapes. They will continue to be uploaded to that. We're still trying to figure out a show or something to do around the tapes, like a sort of best of the worst style or some type of thing where we sit down and watch a bunch of them. The Immortality documentary is out. Awesome work to Jeremy Jane for the edit and for Frank Howley for killing it with all that gameplay. It was a lot of fun to get out there. It is an hour and 26 minutes long. We highly recommend you have played Immortality before you play it, or watch it rather. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of great feedback on that, so thank you very much. Vampire Survivors documentary will be in early access by the time this is up as well. I'm just doing final tweaks to the chroma key on it. I'm trying to make it look like a shitty chroma key, but not an unintentionally shitty chroma key, which is a tough thing to do. Yeah, loads of other stuff coming. PAX West, of course, Saturday afternoon at PAX will be there. Burger King, documentary in the works, a bunch of other stuff. And our merch store is almost ready to be done. I just got the final bits and bobs sent over. Just quality control. Everything's looking very good. And our Hades Blu-ray thing, we're pretty close to that too as well. I had a sample in my hands over the weekend. I was watching it. And we're just doing final tweaks to that. And we should hopefully have news on that in the coming weeks as well. Support all of our work, our documentaries, podcasts, and more over at patreon.com/NoClip. And that's a podcast for this week. Frank Howley, what are you doing for the rest of your week?
There's 2 concerts I'm going to. One is up in LA. There's this Midwest punk band called Snooper.
Snooper.
They're very Devo-esque. It looks wild. They have props, very rad. And then Saturday is the day. Paramore in Palm Springs. I'm
Beautiful.
very excited.
Oh my God.
Very excited.
Delighted. Can't wait. Hopefully yourself and Hayley Williams have a
Yes.
fun fist bump in the middle of that. You get to the front of the pit. She's pretty good at stopping concerts if someone's getting in trouble. So,
Yeah.
maybe you want to get yourself in trouble. Maybe that's
No,
how you
no,
can make,
no,
you know.
no.
That's how the meet cute happens. She's like, hey,
That's
you
exactly.
troublemaker, get over here.
Exactly.
And then you guys hang out.
Jeremy Jane, what are you doing for the rest of your week?
Oh, putting the finishing little tweaks on a Heroes of Might and Magic 3 video today that will go up very soon. I'm very excited about it. Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is an incredible game. If you've never heard of it, watch this video and then play it. It's like $2. It's on Steam and GOG, and when it's not $2 on one of them, it's $2 on the other one. So
that's so funny.
Yeah.
I agree. I have played it. I've not played it. I've watched you playing it. And that was probably also responsible. It is $3.74 right now for my Heroes of Might and Magic 3 HD edition, which is quite funny. Came out in 2015. Anything else for the week?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe thinking about future NoClip Hall of Fame episodes, other games because the Might and Magic 3 video ended up being a history of what is Might and Magic and where did it come from. So it was kind of fun. It was a fun challenge to do a 10, 11, 12-minute video essay. That's the entire history of a franchise with that big of a name. So try to think of like other games that I'm passionate about that might have interesting histories behind them to talk about. And do a little game dev, do a little filming on some stuff, and chill out.
Love it. I have it's been a busy week. I'm just trying to get through as many edits as possible over here. Vampire Survivors getting out. Jesse did a great job putting that one together, and I've just been noodling on that, as I tend to do at the end of these projects, and obviously filming the fucking puppet, which took a long time and was very difficult and very annoying, but I think it's worth it in the end. I'm excited to show you guys a preview of it later today. And yeah, a lot of interviews this week just about the tapes and stuff. I'm on a shed load of podcasts this week. My episode of Topic Lords I recorded like weeks ago with Jim Crawford of Frog Fractions fame went up yesterday. I still haven't had time to promo it. I was on the Patreon podcast last week, which was then I think has been finished. I think I'm one of the last episodes. I'm on Nextlander tomorrow, I think. I'm recording with Brad, Alex, and Vinny. And earlier today, I was on the BBC. They interviewed me last week about the tapes, and then today earlier I was on with Patrick Lepic and Rob Zachney talking about sports, for some reason, just because why not? I guess for Remap radio. So it's been a lot of like trying to get out there and talk about the tapes and talk about NoClip and all that sort of stuff. And then some of them just landed in the same way. Some of these are recorded ages ago and they all just landed this week anyway. So apologies in advance if I've just invaded 4 of your podcasts you listen to at the same time. But I got a couple more things like that. Interviews. We got some interviews later on this week actually, which will be helpful for some documentary work. And that's it. That's a podcast. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week for more talk about old CRPGs. Bye.